Well, hi again, everybody. Welcome to another episode of 100 Yards of Football. And this is our NCAA preview show, along with our founder, Vincent Turner. I'm Harper LeBel. Vincent, it's been a while, a whole week since we've been on, and a lot of things happened last week. We talked about 5 different games, including Notre Dame and Pitt. Notre Dame wins that one. UCLA, Ohio State. UCLA ends up losing badly in the horseshoe. Texas and Georgia, what a thriller that was. Great game. And OU and Alabama. And I will tell you, Vincent, talking about that game, I'm thinking, I don't know if Oklahoma has a chance. Just Bama's just playing too good. But what a game the Sooners played, especially defensively. They were so frustrating to Alabama's offense. And they get away with a couple of things and some turnovers. It wasn't the most magnificent game you've ever seen in your life, but it was great for Boomer Sooner, wasn't it? And this little scooter that they got, the little horses that are going to go around, they're going to be going bonkers this week after that win and disrupting an Alabama team that has been fighting like crazy, like cats and dogs, to get back into it after losing to Florida State in week number 1. A great week, a lot of reasons to celebrate. We've got one this week, but give me some of your thoughts in terms of what happened last week and the significance that it has had on the playoff.
Well, talking about that Oklahoma-Alabama game, we knew it was going to have a huge impact. And to be going into the game, I thought Alabama offense would not be slowed down. I'm just going to be honest about it. And I said personally that John McTeer had to play well for Oklahoma to even have a chance in that football game. Well, he didn't really play all that great. But the Oklahoma defense, man, Boomer, Sooner. And when I saw those guys running out there and making plays and Eli Bolden taking that interception back 85 yards, I said, you know what? I said, this is going to be a football game where Alabama offense is going to have some problems, especially if they couldn't run the football. But you win championships playing defense. And what I thought about last week watching that Oklahoma-Alabama game, I thought about all the great defensive players that's played at OU. The Salmon brothers, Bosworth, Scott Case, Ricky Dixon, Jimbo Elrod, Darrell Hunt. They represented real well down there in Tuscaloosa last week. And I'm sorry, Alabama, it wasn't no Leonard Skinner last week. It was Boomer Sooner. Back to you, Hop.
Well, you mentioned the defense, and we'll talk about them in just a little bit. An SEC caliber defense. You know what I mean? How good you have to be. And they certainly played well. They're only giving up 14 points a game, somewhere in that range. They're 8th in the country. You can do a lot of things. You don't have to score a heck of a lot of points. Mateer does not have to win the ball game for you if you've got a defense that keeps you in everything. You know what I'm saying? If you only have to give up or score 15 points because your defense is averaging 14, boy, what a tremendous burden that takes off. Hey, before we get into this week, I do want to mention Texas Tech. Congratulations to them. The Red Raiders are not playing this week. They have a bye week before the last game. This is what kind of an interesting way that the schedule works out. Instead of playing what many people would call the cupcake or the money games before you have that rivalry week, you've got an off and a bye week. But Texas Tech, they are 4th in the nation in scoring with 42.6 points a game, and they are 3rd in the nation at 12.3 in terms of the points that they give up. I didn't know that. When I looked that number up, I go, no wonder they're where they are. Some other people a lot smarter than me were certainly figuring out how good Texas Tech is right now. There are still a few folks that are going, woo, come on, Red Raiders. I wasn't quite sure, but those numbers speak for themselves, don't they?
Hey, I got to give it up to Joey McGuire. Legendary high school football coach, took their job at Texas Tech about 4 years ago, and he did get on the podium and said that I will build this football program into a college football program that not only going to win the Big 12, but we're going to challenge for national championships. And remember something in the offseason. I can't think of the gentleman's name that played at Texas Tech. A lot of money he's made in oil. I call him Landman 2. And he donated a lot of money, and they went out and got David Bailey, Jacob Rodriguez on the defensive side, and that's what you have right now down in Red Raiders land, Lubbock. And when I think about Texas Tech, guns up, as Patrick Mahomes said last week on the interview, they was interviewing him. He said, hey, Texas Tech is going to be scary when the college football playoffs start. Back to you, Hop.
Well, yeah, coming from one of their great alumni, absolutely, and it speaks volumes. But they still have one more to go, and we'll talk about them next week. But for right now, let's go straight to Memorial Stadium there in Oklahoma. Um, what do you say, Vincent? Boomer Sooner. It's amazing. They've kind of earned it with me. They're number 8 in the country. They're 8-2. They're 4-2 in the SEC. So their only losses were against Mississippi and Texas. Remember, they lost the Red River rivalry. Say that 3 times fast. But now they've got the 7-3 and 3-3 SEC participation from Missouri. They're number 22 in the country. Bo Pribula, 1,600 yards, 11 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. He's been sacked 17 times. And John Mateer only has 8 touchdowns. He's got 7 interceptions, and he's been sacked 18 times. Very average play for 2 teams this highly ranked, in my opinion, at this point in the year. But you know what? When it comes down to the running game, Missouri's got the guy, don't they?
Amon Hardy last week had over 300 yards last week, 25 carries. I think on the collegiate level, I want to get it right. I think he's only one of 6 running backs that's went over 300 yards in NCAA history. But you think about the young man from Mississippi, a transfer from Louisiana to Monroe, you got to say, hey, man, he came out of nowhere. And right now, looking on the NFL draft boards, I don't want to talk about draft, but they say he's the number 2 running back behind Jeremiah Love if the NFL draft was held today, 2026. But most of all, I want to give credit to Eli Drickowich. I don't want to butcher his name, but Harper, look what he's done in Missouri. That people don't even really give him respect, but he's had Missouri quietly very competitive in the SEC, and he's pumping players in the NFL. That's what I'm really impressed with. Young man, guess where he's from? From Fort Smith, Arkansas, baby. Right down the road from from Fayetteville, Arkansas, Pig Sooty, but Pig, Missouri today. But going to Oklahoma, I want people to listen to how good their defense has been. The last 2 games against Tennessee and Alabama, their defense has had 6 takeaways. And they've shut down 2 football teams that was rolling offensively. And I want to mention this young man's name. Last night, I watched y'all show, excellent prospect show last night with Mr. Reese from Ohio State. That y'all talk about the linebacker position. But nobody's mentioned Kip Lewis. Remember that name, Kip Lewis. And it's very hard for me to see the Missouri. They run the football so well, they're not going to be able to run on the Oklahoma defense. With Brent Venables, a lot of people was questioning him when he took the job, came over from Clemson. But one thing that we kind of, I want to say, had amnesia. He was a hell of a defensive coordinator under Clemson, under Dabo Swinney. And that's why Clemson made it and took a step back. But I'm picking Oklahoma in the game. I don't see Missouri being able to run the football like that. And Oklahoma, I think John Mateer, he hasn't played good football the last few weeks. But think about this. He's going to get healthy, and he's going to start making plays.
He's getting
Back
better.
to you, Hop.
He's getting better. I'm telling you. He's part of that 3-tiered rush attack that they have with Torrey Blaylock. He's got 400 yards. No big deal, right? Xavier Robinson, he's got 366. No big deal. Mateer's got 329. But you put the 3 of them together, they're pretty formidable. But Ahmed Hardy, 1,346 yards, 15 touchdowns. You better believe that Oklahoma's job is to slow that man down. Just slow him down. He's averaging 6.8. If you get him at 4, you got a chance, in my opinion. Missouri can score, though, 34.9 per game. They're 22nd in the country, and they're ranked number 22. And they give up 19.9 defensively, and that's in the top 25 as well. So Missouri can bring it. Oklahoma, they score 28 points a game. That's 64th. They give up 14.8. That's 8th in the country. And you mentioned defense and how important it is for them. I am with you. I believe it. But if they're going to win a championship, defense had better bring their A game there in Norman and let that little boomer scooter go around with all the little tiny midget horses and the cheerleaders on it. Could be a great game. All right, let's look at the next one that we're going to talk about here. Autzen Stadium in Oregon, an early start, right? This is a 3:30 kick Eastern, so that means 12:30 out on the West Coast. Number 15 USC, they're 8-2 overall. At number 7 Oregon, they're 9-1. It's Jaden Maiava against Dante Moore. Both teams can score. Their defenses are pretty stinking good, aren't they?
No question about it, man. I think it's going to be the best game of the day. A old, packed in, Pac-8
Pac-12,
rival.
Pac-8,
Yeah.
Pac-10, Pac-400. It doesn't matter, right?
Yeah, that's the neck of your woods. A lot of people don't know the mighty Trojans out of LA. That's what my co-host, the young man y'all looking at. He out of California. And you know what? I'm gonna say this. It's good when USC is good in football, people. It's just something about the Trojans, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. They dropped off a little bit, but I'm gonna say this, Hop. This is the biggest game of Lincoln Riley's coaching career being at USC. They go in there and win this football game, and they got a lot of good offense, bro. Mikhail Lemon, y'all did it showing him a couple of weeks ago, one of the best receivers in the country. I knew when they brought Rob Ryan over as the linebackers coach, I knew he was going to make a difference. Eric Gentry is one of the best football players at that position, pound to pound. And the Trojans, they're going up to Eugene. We know it gets loud there. Dante Moore is played, I think, as much better than since the game against Indiana because remember, he struggled in that football game and Indiana ended up winning that football game. But I think it's the best game of the day. The Trojans, the Ducks, history. But I'm looking forward and I'm taking the Trojans. Hey, Mr. Travers, I know you're watching. I'm gonna take your boys this weekend because USC wins this football game, then I think they can more or less say, "Hey, I'm in the college football playoffs." And we've been so hard on Lincoln Riley. This is the best. This is the most crucial game in his coaching career since he's been in LA. Back to you,
Hmm.
Hop.
Interesting. Compare these schedules with me, and I'm not going to go through every single one of them, just in the Big Ten. Oregon has had to play Northwestern, Penn State. They lose against Indiana, and Indiana was number 7 in the country. 30-20 was the final in that one, and that was at home. They beat Rutgers, Wisconsin, number 20 ranked Iowa, Minnesota. They've got SC this week, and then they close out against the Washington Huskies. SC, this is their Big Ten schedule. Purdue, Michigan State. They lose to Illinois in Champaign. They beat Michigan. Then they lose to Notre Dame, which is obviously a non-conference game. But then they win at Nebraska. They had Northwestern. They just last week, they beat Iowa. They were number 21 in the country. They've got Oregon and then UCLA. Neither one of them had to play Ohio State. And Oregon did play Indiana, but they didn't have to play Notre Dame. So it's a very interesting way of looking at it. But the two teams together, I think I said this, Oregon's a 9.5-point favorite. Oregon's defense, they give up 22 points a game. SC's defense gives up 23.1, so just a slight difference between the two of those. Oregon's offense, though, they're number 8 in the country, 38.3 points per game. SC is 25.9. They're at 76. So something's got to give. And I know that SC struggles mightily when they go to Washington State or Washington or Oregon State or Oregon. Every time that they did it in the pack, they struggled. And if they struggle in this one, they're in for a long day. But if they play well, they got a chance. I think they're in if they make it with only one game remaining before the Pac-12 or championship or the Big Ten. I'm sorry, the Big Ten championship. They wouldn't have to play in it, but they still might be able to sneak in if they beat UCLA.
Like I said, I just mentioned about 2 minutes ago, I'm going with the mighty Trojans simply because this is the most balanced football team that Lincoln Riley's had since he's been there. What I mean by that, they're very improved on defense, and they got people that's very special. Mr. Lemon is special on the outside, and Mr. Miller is special at the running back position. And think about this. A lot of people haven't been on Lincoln Riley so much this season. Remember when he wasn't winning out there, they were saying, was he going to leave? Was SC going to fire him? But I can tell you this, I think when the game is all over on Saturday, and I'm putting my neck on the line, I'm going with the mighty Trojans. And I think the Trojans faithful and their alumni is going to come out, start pumping their chests, and then you're going to start saying, what's the horse name now? Traveler, right?
Traveler. Yeah,
And,
Traveler
and,
9 or something is where they are now. Yes, go ahead.
and one of the things that I liked back in my day, I'm 65 years old, but when I was watching them Trojans in the 60s and the 70s, it was the band and them girls. Back to you, Hop.
Yep, good times. Good times. I remember them well. All right, let's look at the next game that we have here. Obviously, we're not just going to dwell on one or two, but Vanderbilt. How about the Commodores? We're still talking about them, and there's a reason for it. They're number 14 in the country. They're 8-2 as well. They're going against Kentucky, who's 5-5, and Cutter Boley is their quarterback, and he's played okay. 13 touchdowns. He's been sacked 18 times. They've rushed for over 1,500 yards, though. They're 76 in offense. They're 54th in defense. But if Kentucky wins this game, Vandy's done. And so this is another reason why we did this. This is a really important game for Vandy. Diego Pavia, 2,400 yards out of that young man, 21 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. He's only been sacked 14 times. He's rushed. He's a leading rusher on the team. He might get himself an invitation to go to New York City for the Heisman. I know you're very impressed with what he's been able to do. He's had a fantastic year, but again, this is a very important game here for Vanderbilt.
I'm gonna say this, Vanderbilt, better not take Kentucky lightly in this game. Kentucky's played some good football over the last couple of weeks. 2 weeks ago, they beat Florida 38-7, and it wasn't even close. Dominated them on both sides of the ball. But I'm gonna get back to Vandy. I want to give shouts out to Raymond Buggs, who came out of high school same time I did in Memphis, Tennessee. The only player to be named All-State in football, basketball, and baseball. Went on to Vanderbilt and became a two-time All-SEC player at the receiver position. And I know he's got to be, man, I know he's got to be talking a lot of smack. Um, be honest, Harper, I didn't think Vanderbilt would even be here. Even when Mr. Diego said what he said at the SEC Media Days, he said that we got a football team that I believe in. We're going to compete at the highest level, and it's only one goal. It's for us to get in the college football playoffs and win the national championship. He said that at the SEC Media Days. You can pull it up.
Yeah.
But I remember something that made me kind of start thinking Vanderbilt was a serious football team, people. This gentleman right here does an excellent job with Georgia State. He's the color guy. See, I don't know. That's why I got inside scoops. And I remember what you said, Harp. You said they had how many grad transfers out of
21.
this? And I
Yeah,
said,
21.
That's an experienced football team now. These guys have played a lot of football. They got the right type of coach, Clark Lee, who's a Vanderbilt alum, and they got a quarterback that's played very well in every big game that they had this season. LSU, he stepped up and outplayed Garrett Nussmeier. Him and Austin Daniels went head toe to toe 2 weeks ago. But this is a guy that's seemingly to make plays. They got a very good running back in Cedric Alexander. Vanderbilt, I think will come away with this win. The Tennessee game is going to be for all the marbles and them getting in the college football playoffs.
Yeah,
Back to you, Hop.
no kidding. But they better win this one first, right? To get your
Yes,
priorities
sir.
right. Don't look ahead. Volunteers, take care of the Wildcats. You got a chance to make it to the next level. All right, this game is going to be at 3:30. It's an ESPN game, and it's at First Bank Stadium. Kick again, 3:30 there for Vanderbilt. All right, let's look at the next one that we have here. 7 o'clock. This is the next ESPN game that's on there. Pitt, who's been struggling like mighty the last couple of weeks. What a schedule that they've had to go against. And they're going against Tech. Pitt 7-3. Georgia Tech 9-1. It'll be at Bobby Dodd again, 7 o'clock on ESPN. Your thoughts here on this one, Vincent?
Georgia Tech, North Avenue rocking. Brent Key. They got a player that we haven't even mentioned in the Heisman watch. We've been talking about Gunnar Stockton over the past week, and we just got through talking about Mr. Diego. We talking about Dante Moore. But man, Haynes King, look what he did last week against Boston College. They do not win that football game. The young man had 371 yards total offense. In the Jackets, we saw them get exposed a little bit on the defensive side of the ball. But you know what? If Haynes King stands upright, Georgia Tech, we all know, I think they're going to take care of their business against Pitt. I think the game with Georgia is going to be for high stakes. And trying to get downtown that Friday after Thanksgiving is going to be crazy.
Yeah, yeah.
And word on the street, they're working on trying to get a musician there. His name is Kenny Wayne Shepherd, Blue and Black. Back to you, Hop.
Well, Mason Heinschel, 1,600 yards, 12 touchdowns, no big deal. They rush 118 yards a game, no big deal, right? Pitts, but they're 7-3. They're 5-1 in the conference. Their defense is really helping out. 23 points a game, but offensively they score 37. I was surprised with that number coming out of Pitt. That's a big number. Georgia Tech, Haynes King, you mentioned him. He has 10 throwing touchdowns, 2,200 yards. That's a pretty good number. It's not, it's above average. and 807 yards. He's got 2 regular season games to play. Wouldn't it be awesome if he rushes for over 100 yards in the next 2 games each? He's got 14 touchdowns. He gets probably 2,500 yards in the air, over 1,000 on the ground. He's already got 14 TDs. They're number 20 in scoring. They're number 71. They're in the top 10 for rushing. Georgia Tech is moving the football, and they can do some things. If they get their business right and then they play well against Georgia, do they have a chance to sneak in? I'm not sure they're going to have to sneak in. If you win the ACC, you're there. But I'm just asking, from a 12-game regular season, will they have a good enough resume for you to be impressed enough to say we're going to be in regardless of whether or not you play in the championship?
I think they got to win the ACC championship game because ACC has not been that strong from a league standpoint. But this is a team that can easily run the table, win, which I predict they win on Saturday against Pitt. They can easily beat Georgia, and they can easily win the ACC championship game.
Really,
And
easily beat you? You're okay. Well, they took
not
it to
easy.
7
Not, I'm not,
overtime last week.
let me back up. I don't want to get nobody. I'm watching my words. That slip.
That's
They
okay.
can
That's
they
why I
can beat
want to say it.
they can beat Georgia. I think that'll be a real physical football game.
Yeah.
But you got to give credit that I'm gonna say their quarterback again, Haynes King. When you look at the history of Georgia Tech football and you look at all the great football players that's played there, from Kim King to Joe Hamilton to Eddie, Lee Ivory, Eddie
Robotron.
Machette,
Don't forget Robo. You can't reach Megatron. You can't remember.
absolutely. When you talk about that guy, Haynes King, you got to mention him in all those great players that's played there. But it's kind of weird because think about where they were a couple of years ago under um, Paul Johnson. Then the other guy, I can't remember, it's slipping my mind, that Mr. Brent Key, Jeff Collins.
Yeah.
Think what that program was, man. They was really an afterthought. And Mr. Brent Key has got them in a conversation of playing in the college football playoffs and really being something very serious when the playoffs start.
Yeah.
I mean, think about Georgia Tech right now, and it's a school where 1 out of 6 people are millionaires. That's very special here in Atlanta, man. And Brent Key, let me tell you something. Georgia Tech, I hope that you open up the bankroll because after the season, it's a lot of college jobs. And matter of fact, you saw my boy, pretty boy Chico DeBarge, got the job at Virginia Tech. So it's gonna be a lot of jobs out there, baby. And
Yeah.
I just hope that Georgia Tech is able to keep Brent Key because he's done a hell of a job. Back
Yes,
to
he
you,
has.
Hop.
Yep. He's a heck of an engineer, man. I'm very impressed with him. From the first time I saw the man, I go, this dude, you don't want to mess with him. You don't want to mess with him in a bar fight. You don't want to mess with him on a football field. But I think the kids love him. They respect him, and they work real hard for him. And he's just changed everything there at Tech. And they are not a football first school. They're a school first school. So he's been more than just impressive with me. Anyways, they win this game, then they got the University of Georgia, and then who knows what's going to happen there. I think if they win both of them, they're an automatic shoe-in. But what do I know? All right, next we're going to look at BYU goes to Cincinnati. This is our last game that we're going to look at. This is a 8 o'clock game on Fox at Nippert Stadium there in Cincinnati. BYU is 9-1. They're 6-1 in the conference. Cincinnati just barely holding on. They're 7-3. They're 5-2 in the conference. They are 23rd in terms of scoring. Cincinnati is. They're 51st with defense. They give up 22 points a game. BYU is 13th at 17.8. I did not know they were that high. BYU, for obvious reasons in their past and their history, which we love talking about and looking at, from Gifford Nielsen to Steve Young and Jim McMahon. They've had so many Ty Detmer, great players that have played there. They're 27th in scoring and 13th in defense. So give me your thoughts here about the BYU Cougars going to the Cincinnati Bearcats.
All about that freshman quarterback. Can you give his name out, Hop?
Oh,
Bear
Brock Bachmeyer?
out
Bear
of
Brockmeyer. Yeah.
yeah, out of California, baby.
Yep.
He has played extremely well. They've had only one bad game, and that was against Texas Tech. Parker Kingston is a hell of a football player at the wide receiver position. They're not like all those other BYU teams that You played against my boy Jim McMahon and put points on top of points on top of you. But I've been very impressed with BYU and the freshman quarterback. They go into Cincinnati. They got a pretty good quarterback in Brendan Swordsby. He's a guy that's got them at 7-3. Cincinnati loses his game, however, they out of the mix for the playing in the conference championship.
Yeah,
But one thing about this football game, I want to see BYU continually dominate. Because outside that Texas Tech game, they've been on par, man. And think about they lost their quarterback, Jack Rassicle, who's down in Tulane now in the summer. They didn't know what they had coming in with the freshman quarterback. Say his name again, Mr. Harper LeBel. The first name Burr and his last name Bachmeyer, I believe.
Bachmeyer, Bear Bachmeyer.
Put
Yes.
a, better put respect on his name. And this is a BYU team, just quietly. They're 9-1. We talk about Texas Tech, but this is a team that, hey man, I wouldn't want to play them any day, any night, because they coming out of the Utah area. They can play football up there in the Big 12, man. This is
Yeah.
a good football team, and along with Utah.
Yeah, Utah's top 25. LJ Martin, he's rushed for 912 yards. They can bring it from a rushing perspective. They are 21st in the nation at 195 yards. LJ has 6 touchdowns on the ground. But defensively, that's what wins championships. And BYU is close enough. Right now, they're right on that fringe. They're at number 11. They lose this game, it's probably done. So they're going to be playing with a lot of added oomph, if you will, and some extra effort because, the financial as well as the physical reward from doing that, it speaks volumes. So those are the 5 games that we're going to talk about. Vincent, I'm going to review them real quick. We're going to have Missouri at Oklahoma, USC at Oregon, Kentucky at Vanderbilt. You've got Pitt at Georgia Tech and BYU at Cincinnati. Final thoughts.
Final thoughts from last week. I think we have to give the University of Georgia Bulldogs their flowers today and put respect on them. The quarterback, Mr. Gunnar Stockton. Right now, if I had to say the Heisman Trophy ceremonies, I would have my vote for him being the Heisman winner. I
Really?
always judge, yes, sir. I judge people how you play in big games. The Tennessee game, he played lights out. They wouldn't have won that football game without him. Against Ole Miss, what was that, 2 or 3 weeks ago? Lights out. Against Texas, he was the best player on the field. I know I've been really a component of Fernando Mendoza. I know I've been talking about Dante Moore, Jeremiah Long. But if we're going to be honest, Harper, right now with the Georgia Bulldogs sitting there, I believe 9-1, they have the best player in the nation in Gunnar Stockton at the quarterback position. And can nobody tell me as I ended this in today that we did not think Georgia was going to get this type of quarterback play at the position with Gunnar Stockton? And to the Georgia faithful, to you, Mr. Paul Feinbaum, to everybody out there, stay off my boy Mike Bobo, okay? Stay off my boy Mike Bobo. And your Georgia faithful, stop being ungrateful. The Dogs, to me, last week, what they did against Texas, they proved to me that, hey, they got a team that can go all the way down to Miami and win it all. And Kirby Smart can win his 3rd championship since he's been there at Georgia. Obviously, the best coach in college football. Back to you, Mr. Harper LeBel.
Yeah, you have no idea what a grind it is to do it 10, 11, 12 times in a row. Yes, you get a week off every now and then, but at the SEC level, back off. These kids, they're exhausted. Trust me. And then they got to go to school on top of that and have any kind of a personal or social life. It's a very demanding thing. All right, let's look at a couple real quick. We're not going to go deeply into it, but Rutgers takes on number 1 Ohio State. Samford is at number 3 Texas A&M. Miami goes to Virginia Tech. Miami's number 13. This is a must-win game for them. Excuse me. Eastern Illinois goes to Alabama. Right. Some of these are what you would call the cupcake games, but still, nonetheless, Syracuse is at Notre Dame. Arkansas goes to Texas. Pig Suey on that one. Kansas State is at Utah. TCU is at Houston. Houston's ranked number 23. They got a chance. There's some other big games that are taking place for obvious reasons, but Arizona State goes to Colorado. Just keep your eyes and ears open, folks, because this is the last week before the Thanksgiving holiday, which means it's rivalry week, and that obviously for so many different reasons. And Vincent, do you remember Oklahoma and Nebraska? Every year it was cloudy, it was cold, you knew it. It was the wind was blowing, but there was one of those games that you would wait all week to get a chance to see them play, or to see Florida State, or you get to see Georgia and Tech. There are so many great games that are coming up, but that's a week from now. This is basically it's cupcake week for a lot of the big schools, but there are some important games, and we went over them. Vincent, final thoughts.
Man, you brought up some great memories. Rivalry weekend, probably one of the greatest football games ever that I'm always going to remember. Thanksgiving dinner at my grandmother's house down on the address, down on Mississippi Boulevard, Oklahoma, Nebraska, the 1971 Classic. Johnny Rodgers, Jerry Taggy, Rich Glover had 22 tackles in that game. John Dutton. Then you had the great late Jack Mildred really running the bone. He was the first one that brought the wishbone into fruition. Then you had Greg Pruitt, Joe Wiley, Leon Cross-White. You had Lucius Salmon on the field. A super, super football game. And I'm going to share something with you. I was so much Oklahoma that day, man. And they was down, I believe, 28-17 in the third quarter. And they came back and scored 2 touchdowns. And I said the Sooners are going to go on and play for the national championship. But what did Jerry Taggy do? Young man from Green Bay, Wisconsin, took Nebraska, I think, on a 75-yard drive. I think it was like 12 plays, and he completed a 4th down pass to the great legend Johnny Rodgers. And Nebraska went on and won that football game 35-31. If you're talking about classics. Matter of fact, after we finish today, I'm going to go pull that game up on YouTube and watch it from its entirely to the end.
Yeah. It is good to go to YouTube every now and then and just remember some of the cool things. And if you hear Keith Jackson, along with probably not Frank Broyles or, Bud Wilkinson may have been doing the game.
Nah, it was Chris Schenkel and Bug Wilkinson and Bill Fleming doing the player introductions.
I was going to say Bill Fleming was a part of that, the 3-man crew that they had back in the days. And remember, there's only one game to watch. That's it. You didn't have 400 to watch like you do today. So memories. Well, we appreciate everyone being there. Go ahead, Vincent.
And I want to say something. The game that was played that night was Georgia and Georgia Tech. Andy Johnson was the quarterback at Georgia, and that was a pretty good football game. It was a Thanksgiving special that night. So, man, you brought us some great memories, man. And rivalry week is always a special week. Where you from? USC and UCLA?
Absolutely.
What more can you say? I mean, hey. There was college football back in the days. Like I said, when programs like USC, Nebraska, Michigan, Ohio State are winning, college football is at another level, man.
Penn State. Yep, there were some really
absolutely
great games that were all a part of the past, but everybody's kind of moved on from that. And it's time for us to move on as well. We appreciate everybody being a part of the show here today. This is 100 Yards of Football. This is our college preview. So along with Vincent Turner, I'm Harper LeBel, wishing